Hello, everybody. Bethany Dotson, relationship coach and trauma sensitive yoga therapist for high achieving professional women who chronically struggle in romantic relationships. And today I want to talk about the top 3 reasons why you've had years of counseling or talk therapy or many years of working on yourself through self help books, podcasts, and you still attract unhealthy relationships. So, without further ado, I'm just going to dive right into this today. This is going to be specifically for you if you identify with having years of counseling, years of talk therapy. Maybe you've struggled with anxiety or depression in the past. Maybe you had years of therapy because of some childhood trauma or early adulthood trauma. Maybe you had years of therapy after your divorce, but yet you still wind up attracting the same types of partners and intimate relationships. And so I want to talk about why that is the case. And this is after years of doing this work and talking to thousands of people who have had a lot of talk therapy and they're not seeing results in their love lives. So the first and foremost reason is that in talk therapy, you're logically getting a logical understanding of what the problem is. Hindsight is always 2020, so it's always a little easier to review your choices in the rear view mirror around your ex. But the issue with this, specifically with cognitive behavioral therapy and cognitive references, cognitions, I'm thinking with my mind. The issue with this and what researchers and psychologists and neuroscientists have discovered over the years is that in terms of trauma, specifically relational trauma, which is what you may be experiencing if you chronically get into relationships with emotionally unavailable partners, narcissistic partners, addicted partners, people who can't quite give you what you need, and you're constantly left wanting, hanging in there, staying way too long. Relational trauma is not healed by simply talking about it. And the reason being is that trauma is stored as an emotional reaction. It's stored as an emotional reaction to a certain situation, a scenario in your life. I had somebody in our client call talk about the way that she behaved with her ex was so out of character for her. And this is really common when you're in an unhealthy relationship and you're having a trauma response to that person. You may act out of character. You may be a very successful person in your career and in other areas of your life, but in the toxic relationship environment, you may act extremely obsessed, possessive. You can't control your emotions. All of that is ultimately a trauma response. And when you're talking about, especially if you've been going to therapy and you tend to use those sessions to vent about your ex or to vent about your problems or to vent about all the things that are going wrong in your life, what you're doing is just from a mind body standpoint is just rehashing the same stuff from your past over and over again. And every time you do that, the neurons in your brain that are wired together, that are associated with your past trauma, just get stronger. So you're not actually, and when the neurons in your brain get stronger associated to your past trauma, you tend to feel in your body the same unproductive feelings, shame, sadness, something's wrong with me, nothing ever goes my way, love is impossible for me, I'm never going to find anybody, victim identity. So the more you talk about your past and you you can for sure get some insights from your past, some logical insights. What's really happening is that you're just reconditioning your body emotionally to the feeling states of your past. And every time you have a thought, and it's said that we all have 80,000 to 90,000 thoughts a day, and 70 to 80% of those thoughts are the same things that we think all the time. And 90% of those thoughts are all negative. So if you are, or they're limiting in some way. So if you're constantly feeling like something's wrong with me. Why can't I ever meet a great partner? There's my cat. I'm so sorry. I should have put my cat up. Anyway, so if you're constantly thinking about this, what happens is that your body gets used to responding in a certain way, and your brain fires neuropeptides into your bloodstream. And so over time, if you've been talking about your past, you're really just reinforcing the same brain chemistry and the nervous system response that you've been living in for likely years or decades of your life. So this is one of the biggest things that I see when people come in. Either they have a breakthrough session or they enroll in Break the Cycle. They've been doing a lot of therapy and it's helped them to a certain extent. They may feel good during the session. They may feel good for the rest of the day after the session because they've vented and they've had a safe place to talk about their problems, but they're not actually learning how to change their behavior. That's the first thing. The other thing that can, just to stack on the trauma piece here, especially if you have relational trauma where maybe you have childhood trauma or none of your adult relationships are always problem filled, they're pain producing, you may get into situations, especially if you're a people pleaser, where you may not like your therapist, but you continue to go anyway because it's what you feel like you should be doing. And the research shows that you have to, especially when we're talking about changing your behavior, changing the way you think and you feel, this is like very difficult to do. And if you don't have a good rapport or you don't feel like you have a good synergy with your therapist or whoever it is that you're working with, you are not going to get the best results because there's a block there. And this is especially true if you have not liked your therapist. And I've talked to people who, didn't like their therapist and they continued to go for 4 or 5 years and they were still anxious every day. They still avoided dating, or when they did date, they kept attracting the wrong people and it got worse and worse as the years went by. So you really need to make sure that you actually like that person. And here's the downside. When you have complex trauma or relational trauma, a lot of times relationships on an unconscious level are going to feel unsafe for you. And you're going to want to unconsciously create distance in those relationships. And the way that you may create distance in your relationships is by unconsciously choosing the wrong people who will never be able to be vulnerable with you, never really be able to develop true emotional intimacy. You may go for a little while to therapy, and therapy is a relationship or coaching. You may go for a little while and then maybe things start to get a little intense or you're right on the precipice of a breakthrough, and then all of a sudden you decide to stop. So this is something to keep in mind. And one of the top reasons you may have had years of counseling and you're still attracting the wrong relationships is because, number one, you have relational trauma. And number two, trauma is not healed the best way with cognitive behavioral therapy. It tends to keep recycling the same stuff over and over again. And you feel good in the moment, but you're really just riding your bicycle and staying in the same place. The second reason that I see in clients and potential clients is that they're over-identifying with a diagnosis. They're over-identifying with being codependent. Maybe they've been in therapy for 10 years and a lot of people will tell me, I know I'm codependent. I know I have childhood trauma. I know I have generalized anxiety disorder. I know I have all these things. Now there's construction happening. But so I know I have all these things and I feel like I'm never going to be able to attract a healthy partner because I'm codependent and I keep doing all the right things, but I know I'm still codependent. So they over-identify with a label or a diagnosis that they've received from a therapist, and they continue going to therapy, even though inside they're not feeling good about themselves still, and they still have daily anxiety and they still struggle in their love lives. They go because they think it's the right thing that they need to be doing, and they may not know that there are other options, or they may not believe that there are any options. If you're over identifying with your childhood trauma, maybe you may tell yourself, my parents were narcissists, and they may very well have been. You may have grown up with an alcoholic for a parent. You may have some significant childhood trauma. But what the second reason that I find blocks people especially when they've had years and years of therapy, is that they over identify with this identity of something's wrong with me. I'm effed up. This happened to me. Therefore, I can't have a great relationship. And this is the mindset that they bring not just into dating, but into other areas of their life. And they constantly feel like a failure. They constantly are working to try not to feel like a failure, and they wind up feeling more exhausted in the process. The second reason why you've been doing years and years of counseling, but you still attract the wrong people in your love life, is that you may be over identifying with the term I'm codependent. I have childhood trauma. I have daddy issues. My dad left. My mom left. And you're leaning too heavily on that label and not fully taking responsibility. And I know that may be harsh to hear for some people, not fully taking responsibility for the choices that you do have available to you. And you might not even be seeing the choices that are available for you, or truly believing that there are other options available. That's mistake number 2. Mistake number 3, or issue number 3, that I see in a lot of people with years and years of talk therapy, is that there's a lack, especially when they want a great relationship, but they've been in therapy for like 10 or 12 years and the relationship choices keep getting worse and more dysfunctional, is that there's a lack of a succinct plan specifically on relationship piece. And there's a lack of a succinct plan forward, and there's a lack of accountability. What is a succinct plan forward? A succinct plan forward gives you steps to work on every week that are goal oriented, that are driven to, that are designed to move you toward a goal. So in Break the Cycle, the end goal here is healthy relationship. A lot of people may not be ready for that. They might just be exiting a bad relationship when they decide to work with us. Some people have been single for many years and they want a great relationship and they find that. But the goal here is, I want to have a healthy relationship. But sometimes, or a lot of times, there's really no end goal or succinct plan to get you at that destination. And talk therapy, it's very vague and ambiguous. And lack of accountability, you might get some homework from your therapist, but if you've been used to prioritizing your partners or your children or your coworkers or your clients over yourself, you are likely going to ghost yourself when it comes to doing your homework. And your therapist may not follow up with you the next week, or you may just keep punting it down the field. We need to have accountability. I heard one of my coaches once say, we make a lot of promises to people in our lives, and the promises that we make to ourselves are often the very, very first ones that we break. If you've had years of counseling and you're still in a question mark of like, why have I done all this work on myself and this analysis, and I'm still attracting unhealthy people, or I'm still terrified of dating, or I still avoid it, like what's going on? I want you to take these points into consideration. And then if you realize that, yes, I would like to have a healthy relationship, I would like to, first of all, just feel good about myself and overcome my daily anxiety. Maybe you're still ruminating about your ex and you want to overcome that addiction, and you realize that what you're doing week after week isn't working, then I invite you to book a free breakthrough call and go to bethanydotson.com/talk and see if we can help you not just overcome the stuckness that you're in right now, but overcome like years of past conditioning that have led you to this point, and get you moving forward where you feel the healthiest and the most radiant and happiest and most joyful that you've ever felt about yourself. These internal changes, these emotional changes shift and touch your career, your kids, your children, if you have them, and help you learn to date in a way that is authentic, where you're being vulnerable, you're not guarded, you're not hypervigilant. Is this person going to be a narcissist? But you're relaxed in that process. You're trusting yourself. You are trusting other people. And if that's the goal that you want, and under all the layers of fear, your heart is, I would really love to spend time with somebody. I would really love to experience this. I'm tired of telling myself I'm too old. I'm tired of telling myself there's no good men in my city. And you realize that the things that are blocking you are in here and you're ready to overcome that, then I invite you to get on our calendar and we'll have a very honest conversation to see if we can help you change your life. There's a few things, caveats here to qualify for that call. Number one, you must be single or divorced. You're not hoping to work it out with your ex, and you're not dating or in a friends with benefits situation with somebody that was toxic and you're wanting to work it out. You're done. The second thing, you're professional and you're successful in other areas of your life. Other areas of your life are stable. Why is this so important? When we talk about healing complex trauma and relational trauma, it has been shown that when other areas of your life are not major stressors and you're not constantly reacting to a bunch of fires in your life, you're going to be more successful in healing that type of trauma. At least you've had some therapy, you've already had some work under your belt, you've already taken initiative. But like I said before, you're still stuck and you're not seeing the changes that you want in your relationship life, and very likely your emotional and your mental health. If that's you, get on our calendar, bethanydotson.com/talk, and we'll be more than happy to see if we can help you overcome what's been a pervasive concurrent pattern in your love life and probably in your relationship life at large. Stay cool if you're in the Southern Hemisphere, and I will talk to you soon. Have a great day. Thank you for tuning in to today's show. A brand new episode drops each week. Be sure to click and subscribe. And remember, healing trauma, codependency, and your lifelong pattern in love does not happen by itself. You need expert guidance and evidence-based methods. And I've helped hundreds of incredible women from all over the country heal betrayal trauma and reclaim their confidence while falling wildly in love with their own lives and attracting healthy relationships. If you like what you heard today and you want to see if you're fit to work with us, go to bethanydotson.com/talk. That's bethanydotson.com/talk and book a call to speak with us today. We'll get on the phone for about 45 minutes and get you crystal clear on 3 things. The real reason you keep attracting dysfunctional relationships, even if you know better or even if you've done tons of work on yourself. What you really want in a relationship, how you want to feel emotionally every single day in your life, and what lifestyle changes you want to make. And then number 3, the exact strategy you need to be using to get there. Again, healing trust issues, codependency, and a lifelong pattern does not happen without expert guidance. We've helped hundreds of women across the country heal complex trauma, codependency, and have the healthiest relationships ever, both with themselves and with others. Go to bethanydotson.com/talk to book your call today. I'll see you on the next episode.